Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CT Sports Talent Show. My name is Christopher Saunders. I'm pleased to have on with me the starting quarterback for the Watertown. Don't know what their mascot is. I can't tell you. One year they're the Indians, next year they're the Warriors. Can't tell you what they are, but they do play in the NVL. Braden Gamby is with me. He is entering his senior year. Brady, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yep. Thank you for having me. It's
You
awesome.
know, it's always a pleasure to be able to have obviously NVL guys because I see you from the time you're freshmen, sophomores, and you and I were kind of going back and forth. I was talking with one of your offensive linemen. He commented on when I posted the schedule. Watertown's on there quite a bit, and I did that on purpose because I feel like what you guys did last year, and obviously what you guys had coming back. I felt like, you know what, this team I think has the opportunity to do some special things. And it worked out that way with matchups and obviously some of the focal points. I mean, I don't know if you have any comment to the scheduling, but how does that make you feel that you guys are going to be on the radio as far as for games of the week?
I think it's awesome that we're gonna be on there a lot. I think we're gonna play a lot of good games. We play a lot of good teams. Obviously, we got a more difficult schedule, but I think we're gonna give everyone a run for their money. Even some of the better teams like Insonia and Naugatuck. I
Hmm.
think we're gonna be really good heading next year or this year.
Now, I want to kind of go back for a couple minutes, just a few minutes.
Yep.
So, looking at last year, just as far, it was kind of like a tale of almost three seasons, right? Beginning of the season, you did okay. Then you played obviously Ansonia Naugatuck. You had the
Yeah.
Holy Cross game that you and I were talking about. Lost by a point, and then you guys go off after that. I mean, just take me into that the old, up and down roller coaster season that is high school football.
Yeah, definitely a tough way to start the season. And Sonia and Naugatuck back to back, two really tough teams. Going into Naugatuck after playing Sonya, everyone was a little beat up. You know, obviously not the best games for us, but after that we started to pick up, started to play better as a team. We started to just like come together more. Our defense was really good at that point. I think a lot
Mhm.
of like just everyone going to the ball, like that was one big thing. And yeah, we just started to pick it up like on all forces, offense and defense.
So by looking at the schedule, I know you played Woodland 36-27, lost, and then Holy Cross 28-27. Close games before you went on a run. And, in talking to Coach Stanko before the game against Joe Barlow, and then just in general, because we were able to call the game against Wolcott. He was telling me how even in those losses, and even he would go back to the Naugatuck games and the Ansonia games where he felt like there were pieces of where Watertown looked like you guys had an opportunity to kind of continue, and maybe it was a drop pass, just a couple of things didn't go your way. Do you feel like that those games, even though you didn't win against Woodland and Holy Cross back to back, kind of showed you guys like, all right, if we play a complete game, we can be very, very good and make some noise.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that just like showed us that we could compete with the top teams and we
Mm.
could compete with anyone. We're a way better team than a lot of people thought we were. And competing with some of the better teams in the MVL showed us that we're that good.
Take me into, I always ask coaches and players this when I have the opportunity to. At what point did things click, either from the playing side, for the team side, but specifically for the team side? What game did you feel like for this team, last year's team, allowed you to be able to go on the run that you did? What game was it?
I honestly think it was before those two losses that we had. I think it was Crosby when we beat Crosby. I mean, we played really good that game. Our defense locked them down pretty well. Our offense scored, and it was tough conditions. It was really rainy game that game. Ball was slippery. You couldn't really pass. I
Mhm.
think just showing like that caliber of our offense just like showed us like what we can do. And it just felt like we were playing very well as a team, and we could keep doing that going into the next few games or the rest of the season.
The one thing I noticed too, Brady, and again, I saw you against Wolcott, and then I saw you again in the championship game, in the double S game at the Ren against Joe Barlow. The Against Wolcott in particular, I noticed that obviously anytime you or Ty were able to run the ball, I noticed that you ran behind Guerrera. That kind of was like the Zach Martin,
Yeah.
wherever he is, we're gonna go that way, right? I don't know, obviously you're a Patriots fan. So when we had Zeke, I know he's back now with Dallas. I'm a Cowboys fan. Anytime you would look for Tyron Smith or Martin and Steele. You run behind them, right? I felt like Guerrero, wherever he was, which typically was on the line, always was, you go behind him because he's that strong point. Is that true?
Yeah, definitely. Julian, I mean, that's my best friend. He's a big dude. He's a real big dude. Um, he started a few games his freshman year. Definitely the best lineman. I mean, I have no disrespect to my other linemen, but definitely Julian being the starting 4 years or 4 years going in this year. I
Hmm.
mean, big guy, physical guy. Like you wanna go where the blocking strongest.
See, it's good that you're friends with a lineman. You're smart.
Yeah,
You're very
yeah,
smart. You want to keep those hogs happy.
yeah. No, I love all my linemen protecting me.
So, as far as for you, right? And again, shame on me. I try to keep track of every player in the NVL and such, and it's difficult. But when I found out, and again, chatter from different coaches and being able to talk to people, I kept hearing about, hey, have you seen the quarterback at Watertown? And again, I didn't really know much. And I was like, no, who is it? They said Brady Gamby. And I was like, okay, well, what about him? They said, you got to see it to believe it. And I'm like, okay. So then we had the Wookett game, and I was lucky because I was able to see what a lot of people said. So for you, how were you able to keep your mind focused and not because I mean you could be honest here, some kids hear the helium and their head gets bigger and bigger. How are you able to keep yourself so composed and not start to believe in the hype, if that makes sense?
I mean, the only thing I cared about was just doing best for what's best for my team. Like I just wanted our team to win. I mean, whatever like people talking about me, the news articles, that doesn't really affect me because I just want our team to do what's best, like win, just win. Like I'm just more concerned about my team than myself.
The one thing I noticed, and again, I watched a lot of film on you before the game. Obviously, again, I would talk to coaches. The one thing that would really impress me and impress other coaches too is that a lot of times high school quarterbacks are pretty one-dimensional. Obviously, you have the very, very good ones who are very obviously can do multiple things. They can run, they can pass, they can do a lot. One thing that really impressed me about you, Brady, is that you were able to not only show that, you could throw the intermediate passes, you could throw the deep ball if you had to. You also weren't the kind of, again, this is just from my perspective, but I felt like when you felt pressure coming, your first instinct rather wasn't to just run, where a lot of times it is with other quarterbacks. You'll kind of go through your progressions, and then if you got to duck and go, then you'll duck and go because you have the speed. What says you?
I mean, yeah, that Woki game you're at, I remember a few of those plays where I rolled out and found some receivers downfield because when you start to roll out, the defense doesn't know what to do. They panic, they come up, they lose their coverage. That's when you find big gains down the field. I
Hmm.
mean, that's where you find your most yards when they start to come after you.
When you found out that you guys made the playoffs, because you were telling me how when you found out it was kind of like by surprise in some ways, being 5-5, being in double S, it was pretty wide open, especially towards the later end of the final couple
Mhm.
teams that got in. Uh, what was it like? Because I mean, take me into that. Did Stankel tell you guys how was that?
I mean, I remember like we had like a long shot, few different teams had to win, few different teams had to lose. I remember it was a long shot. I honestly did not think we had it all because we were 4-5 going to that Torrington game. But then after the game, a few people were saying like this team's losing. I forgot which team it was, but this team's losing, and that's when we really knew we were very close to it. And then I remember going back to my house Thanksgiving. I had family over, and someone was like, "We were in the playoffs," and it was really exciting.
How was that? I mean, when you knew that the season was continuing, and you step back, pardon me, to the high school of Watertown, and you were preparing for at the time was I think the number one seed, the Granby Canton Co-op, part of the
Yeah.
Peak. How was that?
I mean, once we knew we were in, I mean, I thought everybody was like, we got a shot. Like, I'm pretty sure Granby year before might have lost when they were ranked high in the playoffs. I don't know. That's just what I remembered someone saying. But
Hmm.
everyone was like, we could do this. Like, we could beat them and then go from there.
So when you obviously it's a long drive, right? It's an hour plus, and if I remember right, it was the same day when we were calling Naugatuck and Darien, and the conditions were bad. It was
It was,
windy.
it was real
Yeah.
cold.
It was cold. It was windy. I know. I interviewed Shortell a couple weeks ago, and we were actually talking about that Watertown game, how bad Granby played. 7, 8 turnovers, something like that. It was a sloppy game for both sides. There wasn't a lot of offense. In a game like that, how did you and your team, like, how did you guys stay positive without kind of thinking like, okay, like, is anything going to go our way? Something's bound to happen, like that negative thought. You know what I mean?
I mean, that game was just a total dogfight. I think going in to the second half, I think it was 7-6 or 13-6.
Mhm.
And it was just a total defensive battle that game. Freezing. It was the coldest game I've ever played in. Definitely, no doubt. And coming out at halftime, we saw they're not just the unbeatable one seed. Like they have weaknesses. We could exploit them and we could win. Like we just saw that they're not just unbeatable.
Going through the playoffs as you did, a mud fight 1950s kind of football against Granby Canton. Then you play G&H, which you're familiar with because you played them early on, close game, NVL kind of opponent, right? And you're able to win that one. And then you're going up against Joe Barlow, who I think was the 7th seed, if I recall. Watertown was the 8, Joe Barlow was the 7th. But they actually had, they had won the championship prior and such. So going into that game, I mean, what was that like preparing and knowing that you were playing at the Rent?
It was really exciting. I mean, we knew it was going to be a tough game. Great team. Obviously, the other best team on that side of the bracket, so we obviously knew they were the best other than us in that division. It was really exciting that we got to play at UConn Field. Like everyone was really hyped up about that, and going in to playing the state championship game, it was very surreal. Playing at a Division 1 college stadium that was that like cool, and yeah, it was just totally like everyone was just very hyped up for that game. That's all I remember.
I know, and you and I were talking about the final play, and I don't blame at all, obviously, for going for it and then trying to, he needed about a half a yard, just came up short, didn't get it. But I'm pretty sure you got the ball, right? I'm like
Yeah,
99%
yeah,
sure you
yeah,
got it.
yeah.
So when you found out, and I know it was a long conversation, pass or run, when you heard you were getting the ball, I mean, was it like, all right, game time, let's go? Like you, best player, you give the ball to your best player. You're the best player on the team, so you're going to get the ball.
Yeah, no, I was just I mean, I was very confident in myself. Obviously, you got to play confident. I wanted the ball. I told him I wanted the ball. I mean, a lot of people are gonna say you should have did this, you should have did that, but I mean, we didn't have a lot of time to discuss the play. Like it's big play. I mean, a lot of pressure on it. You just gotta go for it. Go what you think is best, and just don't doubt yourself. And obviously, it didn't work out in our favor, but I think it was a good call, and it happens.
I've always believed you never, your first thought for anything is always the thought that's typically either right or wrong. It's better than kind of saying, okay, let's do this, do that. It's the coulda, woulda, shoulda game, right? Playing Monday
Yeah.
morning quarterback after. You know, you were the best player on the field as far as for Watertown. And I think to a certain degree, maybe even for Joe Barlow as well. I hadn't seen them until that championship game. And I think if you ask anybody in Watertown after seeing the games and seeing you play and such, and obviously your players, I think would agree as well, your teammates give Gamby the ball. He's been carrying us, he's been guiding us, he's been the leader here. So even though you came up short, I'm sure you have nightmares about it every night or you think
Yeah.
about certain points. I mean, and I know you obviously your idol is Tom Brady being a Patriots fan. That's got to really drive you, dude. Like that's got to really kind of like extra rep in either in practice or in the weight room. I mean, what says you?
Definitely. This is a big like motivation for everyone to get back in the same position, even if we're in a harder state bracket this year, state or Class M. Definitely this drives everyone, especially me. I think about it a lot, how we just came up 1 yard short of state championship. I mean, yeah, in the weight room, everything, practice, just working harder to get back there and winning this time.
Now, I just thought about this now, and if Stanko hasn't thought of it, he can give me the money later. Is the motto for this year 1 yard?
Yeah,
1 yard.
def-
Is that the motto?
definitely. I'm sure Stanko will bring it up a lot. 1 yard.
I mean, hey, it's one of those things dude, where it's that close, but again, it takes just one thing. You guys peaked at the right time, and again, you return back majority of the team. You only graduated, two of the, Hausen and I think Arline, you said, right?
Yeah, actually three, and then one of my linemen, Vinny Matul.
Okay, so when you kind of graduate, but again, not a lot compared to some teams that we've seen, like the Ansonias, the Naugatucks. We can go on and on and on. Heading into this year, and I think again, everybody talks, the chatter's there. The big consensus is Watertown in no order. Watertown, Naugatuck, Ansonia, right? And then it's kind of like after that, you wonder, okay, who's going to be after? Holy Cross is in there as well, so the four. How does that make you and your teammates feel like that you're being mentioned amongst the top four? Is it something, nothing, or what?
I mean, it's definitely a great feeling being mentioned. I mean, like being kind of looked down upon other teams past like few years, like Watertown's just like not that good. It definitely feels great being thought of as one of the better teams in the NVL. And but really come down to season time, it doesn't matter. It's just who's the best, who's gonna win, and who's gonna beat the best teams to become the best team, the best record. That's what it comes down to.
As we start to head into the before you put on the helmets and the pad, you got conditioning and such. I know out of season stuff is going on as well when you're able to make it. I mean, we're only what I think 18 days away from that. I think it starts the 19th or something like that. You could fill me in on that. What's that like as you start to prepare for your senior year, knowing that this could be one to remember and also two for Watertown?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely getting really exciting come down the season. It's time to just lock in. We're that close. Only um only like a month away to our first scrimmage. And yeah, everyone's getting locked in for the season.
Is there any again, we're going to be seeing Watertown a lot and I'm stoked. I'm excited. I can't wait to be able to see Watertown and obviously going up against some of the premier division, Division 1, Tier 1, whatever they are in the NVL. I've heard it mentioned in different ways. I call it Tier 1, Tier 2. You're going to be playing against the best of the NVL. And I know you guys are stoked and you want to have that. What's Coach Stanko as far as preparing you guys for this season with so much to be expected from? Has he been saying anything, doing anything like that?
I mean, yeah, in our summer practices, we've just been working really hard. I mean, definitely gonna work a lot harder this year because we're that close, and we don't want to be that close. We want to win. Like we want to be the best. So definitely working harder than ever these past few years, and just working as hard as possible to become the best.
Now, I don't know if captains have been named, but I'm going to assume that you and Julian are amongst the captains. And looking at the team, even though everybody's coming back, it's kind of like I think of it like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They won their title. Following year, they brought everybody back, and there was almost like a lull, like almost like they expected to be that good again. And I'm not, and obviously you guys did not win, they did, so maybe a little different. But the point that I'm trying to make is do you think you're going to have to be a little bit tougher on the guys because now you just can't expect to get back there again, especially being up in Class M. Now you're the hunted instead of the hunter. You know what I mean? What says you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely got to be tough on everyone because we didn't win last year. Like the goal is to win, and we're playing more difficult teams if we make it to the state playoffs, which obviously is the goal. And we just need to become better. Like we just need to work harder, become a better team, and just because we made it there last year doesn't mean anything going into this year. It means nothing now. New season.
Who are some of the offensive and defensive players that I need to be watching for during the broadcast season when we have you guys?
I say definitely Anthony Andujar. He's my receiver. He got a lot bigger in the off season. I think he's gonna make in 7-on-7s. He's been doing really good this year, so I think he's gonna make a big name for himself in the MVL coming up in this next season. And also, Adam Hassinger is one of my top targets last year. Definitely got stronger, better, faster. So those two guys definitely gonna be big going into next season. And also my whole entire line going to senior year. I can't just not mention all of them. But my linemen, my we have two returning who were injured last year. One of them was injured in the Naugatuck game. One didn't play the whole season. So two of these guys returning. They're big dudes, and they're definitely going to make a big impact on my line next year. I'm very confident in my line.
That's got to be again to get to where you guys did with the injuries that you had on the line, and now
Yeah,
those kids are coming back. I mean, that's also got to help too on the depth because now you have experience, even though they were injured, they're motivated, they're starting for a reason. But that's got to be pretty. That's got to be pretty good, good for coach to be able to be like, all right, if in case there's an injury or he wants to do something, there's now depth on the offensive line.
yeah, definitely. Because last year we were hurting on lineman numbers, or middle linebacker Joe Bunce, great middle linebacker. We had to throw him in there on the line in the middle of the Naugatuck game. Never touched line in his life, and he stepped in. And he did a great job, and he played there for the rest of the season. So he definitely made a big impact on our team, playing like a position he's never played before and just stepping in and doing a great job doing it. But now he's probably not going to be starting line this year because we have a few linemen back and he's going to be playing other positions on offense and focusing more on defense.
I'm sure he's okay with that. I'm sure he'll
Yeah.
gladly give away that.
Definitely.
What has, to me, I feel like Stanko is one of the underrated coaches in the state, right? I feel like, and again, this is just from my perspective, so I could be wrong. He strikes me as a guy that, again, doesn't look for the me stuff, right? Is very much about the team. He's not very boisterous. I mean, he doesn't have the typical, butt chin, very tall, very like look, what I'm saying? When you look at a big coach, you're like, oh wow,
Yeah.
imposing. But to me, it's like guys like him, Stanko, are also very dangerous because in my conversations with him, he's very cerebral. He knows football. Obviously, he comes from football. He knows it. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's been on the staff for many years. He's been our offense coordinator for many years. Stepped in at head coach a few years ago. He knows football definitely.
And like you said, he was there when Velarde was there, and then when Velarde left, he took over, and obviously he's been able to carry the torch and then some. Brady, before I let you go, what are some expectations? You can be selfish for a second here. What do you have for yourself? What do you want to do for yourself to help this team get to that championship game and hoist the title?
Definitely this year I'm gonna be more focused on my passing game. Last year, a lot of running. I think I want 20 passing touchdowns, 20 rushing touchdowns next year because a lot of people think I could only run, but I've been working with my QB coach. He's a West Haven QB coach. I've been working with him all off season. I definitely improved my pass game a lot. That was a big focus.
See, I'm surprised that people thought you could only run and not pass. Because again, looking at it from the two games that I saw, it looked like here's the thing. If I see it once, I feel like okay, it's there. It's just the consistency. I felt like your passing was not subpar if people were thinking that. So I mean, again, that's got to motivate you too. If people think, hey, if I can't pass, watch me throw some dimes here. Watch me throw a 20-yard go route right to the breadbasket. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
That's got to make you feel pretty good.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Hey, Brady, I appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. Best of luck this year. I'm sure I'll be seeing you and the Watertown guys on the field at some point. Obviously, we have you guys a bunch, but I'm looking forward to it, man. It's gonna be a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Always. I wrap things up in the CT Sports Talent Show. So next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. Enjoy find them all. Enjoy this shit, everybody, and be well.